Hello and welcome to another edition of the IDC TechTalk Podcast. My name is Miles Dawson, I'm your host, and joining me today I have Philip Carnelley. Good afternoon, Philip.
Good afternoon, Miles.
Philip, do you want to give the listeners a bit of an overview about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm a research director with IDC's European software practice. So I look at enterprise software in various aspects, and I'm particularly focusing on cognitive and AI technologies and big data analytics.
Well, fantastic. And that's exactly what we're here to talk about today, the big data and analytics space. So big data has been a core topic for IDCs for many years, an essential component, in fact, of our third platform. So does that mean that CIOs and chief data officers have got it all under control now? I mean, is it all done, or is it just a matter of execution?
Well, I think it's more than that. I can see why you would think that, but in fact, our research shows that most companies are still really getting to grips with big data. They might have a project or two implemented that use big data, but in most cases it's still isolated within the organization in specific silos. To us, that's not enough. We talk a lot about digital transformation, which really is the big business imperative for most European companies right now. And we can see that information transformation is a fundamental part of that digital transformation. But most companies are just embarking on such a journey, working out what the right platform is.
Okay, so it's still quite early days. I mean, are you saying that companies are not seeing a great benefit from big data yet?
Well, I wouldn't say that. No, there are many examples of companies using big data to advantage. For example, using big data to site wind farm turbines to get the maximum return. That's an essential big data problem, using weather and geographical data, things like that, which are very complex data sources. Or the Port of Hamburg, which is tracking containers to optimize and increase its throughput despite a heavily constricted land area for handling the shipping. And I could give you many more, but our research still shows that the majority of companies are still in the early stages of big data maturity. For maximum benefit, they need to imbue a big data analytics-driven culture across the organization to make big data platforms and tools available to everyone, not just in specific functional silos.
Okay, so if we have any chief data officers or CIOs listening to this podcast, what would you advise them?
Well, if I had to pick three things that were most important right now, the things that they should do and not let it slip into next year, I would say there were these. Firstly, I think they need to plan to be cloud first within 3 years. More and more data is moving into the cloud, being generated in the cloud, and so cloud-based analytics are growing rapidly in capability and popularity. Really, this will be the default choice very soon for most organizations. Second, it's time to put your data lake plans into action. Now, I don't mean just a Hadoop data store for a single function or a use case, but I think a data lake needs to span the business. I think they can reap the benefit by making disparate information available across the business lines. But our research shows that few organizations have implemented a true data lake. Thirdly, then, I would say make sure your GDPR plans are in order. GDPR is the General Data Protection Regulation from the EU, and this comes into force in May 2018. Which is not so far away, and our research shows that few organizations are truly ready for it. In fact, awareness is generally low, and it's surprising how many organizations think it doesn't apply to them. It will. And this is not just a CIO or a CDO responsibility, of course. It involves legal, HR, and so forth, but IT is in a good position to drive it forward and should step up to the plate, in my view.
That's fantastic. I mean, that sounds like very good advice, particularly around the GDPR. You can also listen a little bit about that on our podcast with Duncan Brown we did a couple of months ago. Do you have any parting thoughts around the big data and analytics space?
Yeah, well, just this, really. Obviously, Getting the right tools and technologies is important, getting them in place, and having the right architecture is fundamental, but that's not enough. Our research indicates that the biggest indicator of big data maturity is a cultural one. Building an agile, data-driven business is as much about soft factors, such as having an attitude that encourages fact-based decision-making, as it is about having the right tools and skills in the organisation. It really is something that's cultural, it's a mindset, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic thing to take away from this podcast, is to think that so much of it is to do with the philosophy that you bring to business. It's not just about the tools.
Exactly so, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Philip, and thank you all for listening. Please join us next time where we'll be discussing another topic affecting the IT industry. I just want to drop in as well that if you're keen to hear more about the big data and analytics space, IDC are actually running a conference on the 20th of April in central London. We'd love to have you along, either as a delegate or a sponsor, so please do get in touch if you'd like to hear more about that. In the meantime, if you'd like to keep in touch with IDC, feel free to follow us on Twitter at IDC_EMEA. You can also follow Philip as well. Philip, what's your Twitter handle?
It's P Carnelley, so PCARNELLEY.
And you can also find us on Facebook, LinkedIn and YouTube. Just search us there on IDC. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Goodbye.